Welcome back to the party preparations. So now I'm going to start working on the filling. I was going to get a lot more of this done before I started to record, but I will shut the cabinet door. However, it occurred to me that some of this stuff might actually be handy to be seen as it's done. One of those things is the cutting of the onion. Now, the easiest way to cut an onion, other than having someone else do it or use your food processor, is to cut a little. Okay, first of all, we need to talk about the anatomy of the onion. This is the stem end. You can imagine that that's the part that grows up and they chopped off the top and that's starting to dry. And this is the root end, and you can tell because it has little teeny tiny roots that are still coming out. So what you do is, first you carefully cut off the stem end, and then you cut off the root end. Now when you cut off the root end, you'll see this, let's see, can you see that? There it is. That little spot right there, that's actually part of the root. But what's handy about that is that when you slice the onion in half, like this part keeps all of these layers held together. And that will come in handy when we go to cut the onion. So peel off the outer skin that you don't want to eat. Set that aside. And you can go ahead and do the same thing with the other half. Okay, so you have these nice flat surfaces, and that'll keep it from rolling around, which is, excessively dangerous when you're carrying a big giant knife. And the root end is over here. So what we're going to do is cut horizontal layers carefully, almost to the end of the onion, but not all the way to the end. And then we're going to do that one more time. And if you want to get crafty, go ahead and do it one more time. So, you see that? There, there, there. All right. Now, this is the root end still, holding everything together for us. We're going to take the knife and start cutting down like that. Notice how I'm holding my hand like this instead of my fingers out like that, because I don't want to chop my fingers off. I do in fact like them. So you try and keep your knuckles facing the knife. Alright, now take the knife and slice right down. And all of these lovely little cube onions just rain from your knife. And then you've got this little piece at the end, and you don't want to chop off your fingers. So you can just grab onto that root part carefully and use the knife and cut around. And then take your little root and throw them away. Move on to the next half and do the same thing. So let's see, there's the root. And chop. Big giant pieces. Okay. Now I have the skillet heating up over here, so I'm going to grab the olive oil, which is right here. Throw some in there. And the pan's really hot. The oil is already shimmering as soon as I stick it in there. I have started fires with oil before, so be careful. Yeah, the fire department actually had to come to my apartment one time and clip this, and it was excessively embarrassing. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you as the onions cook, I'm making a black bean filling for the empanadas. So I've got those sauteing on medium heat, and now I'm going to demystify one of those fancy French cooking terms. Chiffonade. Now really all that means is take your fresh herbs, roll them up into a little wadded ball roll thing. Nice little nugget of herbs. And then just carefully slice right down. So I just chiffonaded. I don't know what the appropriate tense is for that in French. But I just chiffonaded all of that cilantro which looks to be about 2 tablespoons, you know, if you don't flatten it down too much. So I'll just set that aside. I don't want to overcook that. I'm going to add that right towards the end. I also have 1 can of black beans that I went ahead and rinsed because unless there's no salt added, those canned vegetables and beans and all of that stuff, while very convenient, are shockingly loaded with sodium, which is not a good thing. So I rinsed those so that we could add the salt that we wanted to add, and the seasoning that I chose happens to be right here. So in this little container is 3/4 of a teaspoon of cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and about 1/4 of a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. Now you may roll your eyes every time someone requests freshly ground pepper over the pre-ground kind, but I mean, it's a huge difference, and there's just no getting around that. So may as well just suck it up and get a grinder. That's what I finally did. So the onions are sauteing, and I want them to get translucent, soften up a little. I don't want them to get crispy and brown. I want them to be able to develop some of their natural sugars, and those are brought out by cooking the onions a little bit more slowly, which gives me time to talk about yet another one of my favorite, I don't want to say philosophy of cooking sort of thing, but it kind of is. This is a box grater. Everyone should have one. And of course there is a cheese grating mechanism that's on food processor, but this is really handy and you don't have to wash as many dishes, which is great. So, oh, I forgot to get off the cheese. In my kind of humble opinion, I think that there's just really no comparison between pre-shredded cheese that you get in the, you know, already sealed in the package versus just buying a brick and grinding it, or grating it yourself as you go. And it really doesn't take that long. And, you know, work on your muscles. See that? And it takes even less time if the box grater has one of the thicker cut slicing planes instead of the more finely grated variety. I cannot believe that I did not cry at the storm with the onions. Now, if chopping onions causes you difficulty with your eyes, and it does to me lots of times, lighting a candle or doing it right next to an open flame, like on your burner if you happen to have a gas stove, something like that, it burns the sulfur that's released as you chop the onions. So it's the sulfur that makes you cry and, you know, sniff and all that other stuff. So the open flame combusts or it just burns it away, so it doesn't bug you. All right, so here we have, I don't know, what do you think? Like a cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and the next thing that's going to go in there, is a chipotle pepper. Let's pick out a nice big one. And it's adobo sauce. So we'll give the onions a stir. Don't want them to feel forgotten. And we'll even turn the heat up. My burner goes from 1 to 10, so I've got it in between the 5 and the 6. Alright, so try not to touch the pepper with your hand, because even after you wash it, those oils will still be stuck to your fingers, and you'll forget, and you'll rub your eye or something dumb like that, which I do all the time. Not that you're dumb, but I have made that mistake. And it really burns, which, you know, is no big surprise, but still, something to be avoided. Alright, so that guy's chopped to near oblivion because they're already very soft. And of course I bought the most giant can of chipotle peppers at the grocery that they have, and I only need one. So I'll just stick those in a little container and freeze them. And then I can, you know, use them later. Alright, so the onions are looking good. I shall show you. It's in there. Nice color. Kind of golden-y. I'll go ahead and add the beans. So in go the black beans. pepper. Hi, Zola.
Hey, Mommy.
Give your princesses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm Zoya.
Oh. Alright.
Let me see it, Mommy.
Oh, hold on. Can you leave it there? I'm almost finished. Alright, and then we'll add the pepper.
Yeah.
And we'll add the cilantro.
Yeah.
Now, it looks a little dry, and it could probably use an acid component, so what do you think? A lime? Should we add a lime?
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, sweetie. That's good. Use half a lime. Stir that.
Inside.
Should we use the potato masher?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll take the potato masher and mush up the beans a bit. And then go ahead and add the cheese. Yeah, and this pan is going to be a huge giant pain in the butt to clean, so just so that you're prepared. Melted cheese, never, I mean, you know, it's very delicious. Okay, I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to taste it so that I can adjust the flavoring or seasoning as need be. Running out of spoons. It's great. Okay, so that's the filling. All right, and so I will be back when it's time to roll out the dough, cut out the little empanaditas, and fill them, seal them, and bake them. So that will be step number 3. Okay, until then.